Pokemon Run and Gun is easily the hardest ROM hack out right now, and today we're showing off the early game, or in other words, the Brawly split. Not only that, but we're also going to show you the most optimal way to get out of the hell that is early game Run and Gun. Run and Gun offers the Sinnoh starters, Turtwig, Chimchar, and Piplup. While all three options are about equally as viable, they all serve very different purposes, and their strengths are apparent at different points of the game. Turtwig is very defensive with the ability Shell Armor, and is probably the most consistent option for the early game, as it's useful for the first 4 gyms. Chimchar is probably the weakest early game, but becomes insanely destructive once it's fully evolved. Piplup's all around solid through pretty much the whole game, and has a very good defensive typing as Napoleon. How Run and Gun works is that there are different boss trainers throughout the game that define the strict level cap for that section, or split of the game. The game physically does not allow you to go over this level cap until you beat that boss trainer. The first of these trainers is this Aqua Grunt that stops you from entering Petalburg Woods, and you have up to 7 encounters to help with this bad guy. Given that you're not delaying your Littleroot encounter until you have Surf, you have 4 options here. Surskit's easily the best encounter, as Masquerain is one of the strongest early game Pokemon due to its Intimidate ability. Timple's also great, and Lotad has value as well, but Finneon's pretty garbage. You literally never want this thing, and it's almost completely useless. Route 101 probably has the weakest encounters overall of your early game options. Deerling, Galar Zigzagoon, Bunnelby, and Starly are all pretty solid and have their fair share of uses, while Baneri is fantastic and probably the best encounter on this route. Skitty always comes holding a Moonstone, so you'd think Delcatty's useful, but it kinda doesn't really do a lot aside from beating the easiest trainers in the game. Lillipup has a 50-50 chance to have Intimidate or Sandrush when it evolves, one of which is practically useless. No, seriously, like, actually f*** Lillipup, dude. I swear, like, f*** this thing. I've had over 150 attempts in this game, and I actually just stopped using this dog. It's the only thing I won't use in the entire game, because every time I have it, it never has Intimidate. It's always Sandrush. I swear Intimidate's not real. I hate this thing. Poochyena is decent, considering dark types always seem to have at least some niche use, but Pidgey and Litleo are pretty useless. In Oldale Town, you get a guaranteed fire type encounter, and most of these are pretty solid. Litleo is still kinda useless, and Ponyta isn't super impressive either, but Salandit and Fletchling are fantastic. Houndour is a solid middle of the road encounter, and Sizzlipede is great when it evolves after Brawly. Growlithe, however, is very useful in a pretty unexpected way, as you can trade it for the Hisui variant once you get to Rustboro City. And he's such a good boy, like look at him, oh my god, he's so cute. Route 103 is an interesting one. The grass offers a guaranteed grass type, and fishing's obviously a water type. Most of the grass encounters are pretty solid, but Gossifleur and Budew stand out the most. Gossifleur's ability Cotton Down lowers the opposing Pokemon's speed by 1 every single time it takes a hit. This is one of the most broken abilities in the entire game, and Eldegoss has use for the entire run due to it. Budew can have 2 abilities, Natural Cure and Poison Point. Poison Point is the preferred of the 2 as it turns into Technician when it eventually becomes a Roserade. From my experience, it's only really worth it to go for a fishing encounter if you pick Turtwig as your starter and you have Deerling from 101. But even then, going for the grass is never a bad option. Chinchu's a great encounter, Tentacool's solid too, and has dupe value for later. But Lotad and Skrulp just aren't really what you want from this route, but they do have uses later on. This route has got to be one of my least favorites. Either you get something super valuable like a synchronized Pokemon with a good ability, or you get a Pidgey that sits in the box forever and does nothing. Fletchling, Natu, Abra, and Ralts are all extremely valuable, however. Talonflame's fantastic, Natu and Abra can get synchronized as well as help for Brawly, and Ralts is the only fairy type available for a very long time. Starly and Rookidee are decent, since Staraptor and Corviknight are both fantastic, but they don't offer a ton early game. I almost never fish on this route, since getting Psyduck would probably make me fall to my knees in agony. Petalburg City is where the first real viable delay option becomes available. Poplio is a very valuable encounter for the entire second half of the game, and Primarina has a lot of Elite Four potential. Froakie's kind of a dud, and doesn't leave the box a lot from my experience, and the rest of the encounters here, if you decide not to delay, aren't bad. Krogunk is great, Surskit is fantastic of course, and Timple's awesome. Lotad and Shellos have their uses as well, but don't stand out as much as the rest. The encounters on Route 104 make me so upset sometimes. You could get a Weedle that becomes a killing machine after it's able to Mega Evolve, or you could get a Yanma that evolves into a Yanmega before the first gym if you decide to use one of your heart scales. Or you could get a Paris that sits in the box and offers almost nothing at any point of the game. Honestly, most of the encounters in this route are really solid, but getting Paris or Ekans really hurts. It feels like so much wasted potential. Oh, and I've never fished here, or seen anybody fish here. Just like, don't do it, it's not worth it. Like I mentioned earlier, the level cap is defined by the Aqua Grunt blocking Petalburg Woods. His team might not look that scary at first glance, but they each have their own gimmick that makes it a pretty tricky fight sometimes. The Carvana lead is the main focal point of this fight, and if you don't have a Pokemon that outspeeds it, you're probably dodging either a flinch or a crit. Turtwig is especially useful for this pesky fish. The Krogunk has a Belch Salic Berry set that can catch you off guard, but playing around that is usually pretty straightforward. Oh, and sometimes the Execute just gets super lucky with Harvest, but overall it's not a real huge issue. Hit the range? Unlucky. Appreciate that. Yo, Stargazer. What's up, friend? Or you could get a Paris that sits in the box and offers almost nothing at any point of the game. I think we want Tortuga first. Hell yeah. Now that you've cleared the first skill check of the game, it's time for one of the most soul-crushing sections of Run and Bun. Some of the encounters here seem so volatile. In Dewford, you can get either a Tyrogue to carry you through the early game, or a Stuffle that turns into an absolute tank after it evolves. Or you could get this duck and start crying. Either way, Dewford Grass is home to exclusively fighting types. These routes are both fishing encounters, with 107 being home to Horsey, Carvanha, and Remoraid. The cool part about Horsey is that it has a 5% chance to hold a Dragon Scale, meaning you can technically get Kingdra before the first gym. But if you have a Pokemon with Compound Eyes, it boosts that chance to a whopping 20%. Carvanha has some niche uses, and Remoraid is a fantastic sack for Roxanne later. Route 106 has some great encounters. Trudel is great when it evolves into Dreadnought, Spheal is fantastic as it gets Encore, and Shelter turns into a potential Shell Armor tank. And Staryu's kinda cool too, I guess. None of the trainers between now and the next boss fight are particularly hard with proper preparations, but I just wanted to include the fact that Prinplup completely sweeps the trainer with a Munchlax blocking Granite Cave because it's kinda hilarious. Before covering Granite Cave, I think it's important to talk about Route 109. The encounter table here is very hit or miss. Tortuga is amazing, and everything else feels a little disappointing comparatively. The rest of the encounters here aren't necessarily bad, but having a normal resist for Brawly is super important, and getting Tortuga really opens up the possibilities in Granite Cave. If you get a Choodle as your encounter on 106, it drastically increases your chances of landing Tortuga. There's a lot of options in Granite Cave, with 4 separate, widely diverse encounter tables. If you do end up getting Tortuga, then you have a lot of freedom with which room you choose to encounter in. It would take way too long to go over every encounter in this cave, so here are some of the standouts. Togedemaru is far and away the single best early game Pokemon in this game. It does just about everything, and it's good throughout the entirety of the game. It's even worth potentially delaying Granite and Cave until you catch your Route 110 encounter, just in case you get a Pokemon with Static, so you have a better chance at catching this little guy. Phanpy and Aron are both phenomenal. They're both tanks and provide a lot throughout the entire game. Pretty much any normal resist is solid, especially without Tortuga. The Ice Room and Steven's Room have some different types of Pokemon, including Ice types, obviously, and more of a random assortment in Steven's Room. Sneasel is a fantastic encounter, despite getting nerfed in an earlier patch. Lastly, Gligar is a massive standout in this cave, and it honestly might be the only Pokemon that can safely 1v1 Brawly's Hitmontop at this point. There are some huge misses in the cave as well, and trust me, I've had my fair share of Bergmite runs. Clearing the beach usually isn't too difficult, but sometimes depending on your encounters, it can be moderately problematic. Once getting to Slateport, you're able to fish for one last encounter before the next boss trainer. Horsey and Remoraid are potential dupes, with the other 2 encounters being Buizel and Quillfish. Buizel's solid, especially with good IVs as a Floatzel, but Quillfish really stands out in the early game. Intimidate is awesome for Brawly, and it's a potential answer for several of his Pokemon. In the museum, you're met with your next roadblock. These 2 random-ass Aqua Grunts have 2 pretty scary teams, and with bad luck, you can easily be sent back to the truck faster than it took me to mention balls in my last Twitch stream. The first Grunt is probably the easier of the 2, but the Tortuga can always get the 10% Omni Boost and ruin things. The second Grunt is a bit more problematic. I've lost runs to all 3 of these pieces of Groudon generally does really well here, being able to take out the Tortuga and potentially the Frillish. The hidden power tutor in the supermarket section of Slateport is your friend here, since it opens up potential for Pokemon that you wouldn't think to use. For the Whirlipede, Monferno does pretty well, as well as a lot of Pokemon you find in Granite Cave. Oh, and Fake Out's definitely your friend here. Not a big alcohol guy. Whiskey Ginger. Yeah, Whiskey Gingers are pretty decent too. I just can't drink whiskey anymore. It's fine, don't get you. Nice. Sick, dude. Better kill. Nice. Let's go. You got this, Prinplup. Don't boost. Don't boost. Nice. I'll show you the box tree after this though, Ginger. Alright, good luck to you, dude. That's fine. There's a Squirt Discord? There is. Yeah, the Discord's pretty dope, I think. Hey, crit me, am I dead? Well, now it's random move, dude. How is this run? Extremely. All right, we'll go Gossifleur. Unlucky. Now we probably lose. Okay, we're faster now. We just have to dodge crit. Ooh, okay. Sick. All right, Butcher 2 then. Okay. Ouch. Oh my god, here we go. Camper Gabby on Route 110 guards the first rare candy of the game. Normally in Run and Bun, the endless candy that's given to you at the beginning of the game doesn't allow you to exceed the next hard level cap. The several rare candies placed around the map, however, allow you to go above the cap. This allows you to evolve certain Pokemon for Brawly despite their evolution level being past the cap. Gabby's team is pretty easy to deal with. I don't think I've ever actually lost a Pokemon to him. From my experience, if you can beat the Aqua Grunts, then you should have a super easy time with this guy. Free rare candy, honestly. You also get a guaranteed electric type encounter, which often does end up being a part of your Brawly team to keep his Poliwhirl in check. Oh yeah, if you get a Shinx here, delay it to level 21 for Covet. It's really good for Brawly, trust me. Brawly's team is just downright unfair at this point in the game, specifically the him on top. This thing just does not have any counters. You pretty much always have to use more than one Pokemon to beat this guy. Not to mention Brawly's Lopunny and Scraggy. 150 base power Stab Retaliate on switch-in is the entire reason why normal resists are so important for this fight. Scraggy has an Eviolite set with Rest and Shed Skin, which makes it seemingly unkillable at times. The Cubfu lead has solid coverage, but it's beaten relatively easily by a few pretty common Pokemon. Combustion's also a massive threat with speed boost, good coverage, and workup. The Poliwhirl generally needs a specific counter, and oftentimes requires you to bring a Pokemon just to counter it. Just don't wake up here. I'm just gonna drain this though. Oh, dude, it's just insane. It might not matter though. If it's on Headbutt there and flinched me, that would've been awesome. Yeah, it's fine. That doesn't really matter. Hopefully it Fake Outs here though. I don't think it will. Yeah. Because it counts as faster for speed tie. I just don't understand. I just don't get it, dude. I needed to not get crit by this Hitmontop Rock Slide, man. I just don't get it. Does this go Lopunny? I hope. Wait, that's mad annoying. Just because now it's gonna go Combustion, right? Well, no, it's gonna go Poliwrath, maybe. No, it does go Combustion. Well, I guess this should always T-Punch. Thank you. Yeah, since I got crit, I'm gonna need to take a Retaliate with Masquerain. Wait, if this double kicks, I'm gonna lose. No, I'm lucky. Alright, I'm dead to one Thunder Punch roll. One roll. Thank you. Crit doesn't matter. Okay, this is not guaranteed Retaliate, which actually helps me. I have to go Masquerain. Just don't Retaliate crit me, please. It's random move and it has to crit. Okay. That's insane. Alright, I'll get some chip. Get some chip. I don't have any more Fake Outs, but the Iron Barbs helps. I'm gonna Sleep Powder it. Hopefully it doesn't Headbutt flinch me. Vampy is good for switching on rock moves. Vampy's a really good encounter though. Cool. So Poliwrath's still alive and Scraggy's still alive. Okay, I was kind of hoping it woke up. Just, okay, nice, don't crit me. Okay, this is Poliwhirl for Ice Beam. Who do I switch in though? Okay. Hope Stream was good, dude. It's a range, just don't, please. Okay, don't freeze. Okay. Hit the range, it's not a good one, it's 31%. I've lost so many ranges here. Please? Okay. This is fine though, this is always Ice Beam. Okay, I'm not ever dead to crit. Okay, all that's left is Scraggy. It's not over, but all that's left is Scraggy. And it's pretty likely to go for speed control here. I'm still faster after -1, so hopefully if this rock teams... Okay, we just win. Run! We're finally past the first gym with no deaths for the first time today. After almost 6 hours. Good lord, man. I've had the worst luck today. But just wait, Roxanne is no slouch either.